World Information HD channel. In the world of coin collecting, a simple copper penny can be worth far more than its face value. Hidden in old jars, drawers, and forgotten change, some rare Lincoln wheat pennies have sold for jaw-dropping prices, sometimes in the millions. Today, we're counting down the top 7 most expensive and rare U.S. Lincoln wheat pennies that could turn your spare change into a small fortune. Imagine holding a small, copper-colored coin in the palm of your hand, a penny so ordinary in appearance that most people would not even give it a second glance. Yet deep within its smooth, aged surface lies a secret, a story of history, rarity, and hidden value that could transform a humble cent into a small fortune. This is the story of the 1940 no-mint mark Lincoln wheat penny, a coin that has captured the fascination of collectors and treasure hunters alike. The year 1940 was a pivotal time in American history. The Great Depression had shaken the nation throughout the previous decade, and while the economy was showing signs of recovery, the world was teetering on the edge of global conflict. Across the Atlantic, war had already engulfed Europe, but the United States had not yet entered World War II. It was a period of cautious optimism mixed with uncertainty, and life in America was slowly rebuilding. Pennies clinked in pockets, used to buy loaves of bread, postage stamps, and perhaps a cup of coffee at a local diner. The Lincoln wheat penny, first introduced in 1909 to honor the 100th birthday of President Abraham Lincoln, had already become a familiar part of everyday life by 1940. The design featured Lincoln's portrait on the obverse, created by Victor David Brenner, and 2 wheat stalks on the reverse symbolizing prosperity and unity. While the design seemed simple, it carried a patriotic charm that made it beloved among Americans. The wheat penny became a symbol of resilience during difficult economic times, and in 1940, it continued to play its role in the daily transactions of millions of people. Now, the no-mint mark designation tells us something important about where this coin was struck. In U.S. coinage, a mint mark identifies the facility that produced the coin. For example, coins minted in Denver carry a D, while those from San Francisco bear an S. However, pennies minted in Philadelphia during this era typically had no mint mark at all. This absence of a mark is not an error, it's simply the way Philadelphia coins were produced. But what makes certain 1940 no mint mark Lincoln wheat pennies stand out is their condition, rarity and pristine form, and the special interest of collectors who seek out unique characteristics such as striking errors, sharp details, and rich luster. You see, while millions of 1940 pennies were made in Philadelphia, most entered circulation immediately, passing through countless hands over decades. They were used, worn, and eventually replaced by newer designs. Very few survived in exceptional condition, especially those that maintained their original mint luster, that bright, reflective shine seen on a freshly struck coin. For a 1940 penny to remain in nearly flawless condition for over 80 years, it would have had to be carefully preserved, kept away from dirt, moisture, and the natural wear of circulation. This is precisely why uncirculated examples, graded at the highest levels by professional grading services, are so highly prized. Collectors are not just drawn to the 1940 wheat penny because of its age, they also appreciate its historical context. In 1940, pennies were made of 95% copper and 5% tin and zinc, a composition that would change during the war years when copper was diverted for military purposes. Just 2 years later, in 1943, the U.S. Mint temporarily switched to zinc-coated steel cents, creating a brief but fascinating detour in penny production. The 1940 penny, then, stands as one of the last pre-war copper issues, representing the tail end of an era before global events reshaped the nation's coinage. But beyond the historical backdrop, there is another element that keeps collectors excited: varieties and errors. These are coins that, for one reason or another, did not come out of the mint exactly as intended. Sometimes, a die might strike the coin slightly off-center, or the lettering might appear double due to a striking anomaly. In the case of the 1940 penny, a few examples show double die obverse, where the inscriptions like "In God We Trust" or "Liberty" appear with a shadow-like doubling effect. Such features can make a coin significantly more valuable because they are rare and sought after by error coin specialists, When it comes to determining a penny's worth, condition is king. Coin grading, the process of evaluating a coin's state of preservation, ranges from poor, where the design is heavily worn and barely visible, to mint state, where the coin appears almost exactly as it did the day it was struck. A 1940 penny in average circulated condition may only be worth a few cents above its face value. However, when preserved in an uncirculated state with sharp details and blazing red luster, the value can skyrocket. Imagine discovering one of these pristine coins in an old family collection or tucked away in a forgotten jar of change. The thrill of realizing that a simple penny could be worth thousands of times its face value is enough to make anyone's heart race. In fact, some lucky individuals have stumbled upon such treasures without even knowing what they had at first. They only learn the true value after consulting a professional coin dealer or submitting the coin to a grading service. Over the years, the 1940 no-mint mark Lincoln wheat penny has appeared in major coin auctions, attracting competitive bidding from serious collectors. Auction houses have seen these coins sell for impressive amounts, especially when the piece boasts flawless surfaces and vibrant color. Coins graded as red, meaning they retain their full original copper hue, tend to bring in the highest prices, followed closely by red-brown and brown classifications, which indicate varying degrees of toning over time. The allure of the 1940 wheat penny is partly nostalgia, partly history, and partly the thrill of the hunt. For collectors, there is nothing quite like finding an original piece of American history preserved in such fine detail. It is a tangible connection to a time long past, when Abraham Lincoln's profile was still relatively new to coinage, when the wheat stalks on the reverse reminded people of agricultural prosperity, and when a single penny had the purchasing power to buy something meaningful. Some collectors begin their journey with a simple goal: to assemble a complete set of Lincoln wheat pennies, from 1909 to 1958. Along the way, they quickly learn that not all dates and mint marks are created equal. While some coins are plentiful and easy to find, others, like certain high-grade 1940 no-mint mark examples, require patience, persistence, and often a healthy budget to acquire. The chase itself becomes part of the enjoyment, as each new addition to the collection tells its own story. Even for those who are not die-hard collectors, the idea that an ordinary-looking coin could be worth a life-changing sum is captivating. It inspires people to check their pocket change, search through old coffee cans in the attic, or sort through inherited coin jars from parents and grandparents. While most 1940 pennies will not turn out to be rare or valuable, the possibility remains, and that is what keeps the excitement alive. Over the decades, the Lincoln wheat penny has become more than just a piece of currency. It has become a cultural icon, a reminder of simpler times, and a symbol of enduring value in the face of change. The 1940 no-mint mark variety, in particular, continues to capture imaginations not only because of its potential monetary worth but also because it carries with it the story of America at a crossroads, a nation on the brink of war, yet still holding fast to the ideals and imagery that had carried it through previous hardships. Today, coin enthusiasts and historians alike treasure these pieces as miniature time capsules. Each one has traveled a unique path, from the moment it was struck at the Philadelphia Mint to wherever it rests now, perhaps in a collector's display case, perhaps hidden away in a safety deposit box, or maybe, just maybe, still sitting unnoticed in a drawer somewhere, waiting for someone to rediscover it.so. The next time you see a worn copper penny, take a closer look. Check the date. Examine the details. That simple scent might just be a key to unlocking a forgotten piece of history, a story that began more than 8 decades ago, and in some rare, extraordinary cases, it might also be a ticket to a small fortune. After all, a 1940 no-mint mark Lincoln wheat penny in pristine, uncirculated condition once sold for the staggering sum of $39,477. Imagine holding in your hand a tiny, weathered coin from a time when the world was at war, gasoline was rationed, and the sound of swing music echoed through every radio in America. Now imagine learning that this very coin could be hiding in your spare change jar right now, and that it could be worth far more than you ever thought possible. Today, we're diving deep into the story of the 1941 no-mint mark Lincoln wheat cent. It's a coin that, at first glance, might look ordinary, maybe even like something you toss into a tip jar without a second thought. But the truth is, this penny has a history, a character, and in some cases, a market value that could surprise you. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly why collectors are so fascinated by it, how to spot one in your own collection, and the hidden features that make certain examples incredibly desirable. To understand the significance of the 1941 no-mint mark penny, we first have to step back in time, all the way to the early 1940s. America was still recovering from the Great Depression, and across the ocean, the Second World War had already begun. While the U.S. wouldn't officially join the fight until later that year after Pearl Harbor, the economy was shifting, industries were preparing for wartime production, and even the U.S. Mint was impacted by the era's changes. The Lincoln Wheat Penny, designed by Victor David Brenner in 1909, had already been in circulation for over 3 decades by 1941. Its obverse featured the familiar bust of Abraham Lincoln, facing right, with the motto, "In God We Trust," above the word liberty, to the left, and the date, in this case, 1941, to the right. The reverse displayed the classic wheat stalks framing the denomination, 1 cent, with United States of America in between and the motto, E pluribus unum, above. When we talk about a 1941 no-mint mark penny, what we mean is that it was struck at the Philadelphia Mint. Back then, Philadelphia didn't place a mint mark on its coins, unlike Denver, with a D, or San Francisco, with an S. So, if you see a 1941 penny without any small letter under the date, you're looking at a coin minted in Philadelphia. Now, Philadelphia produced a huge number of pennies in 1941, over 887 million of them. That's why, for most circulated examples, the value is modest. You might expect them to be worth only a few cents if they're heavily worn. But, and here's where things get interesting, there are certain factors that can catapult a humble 1941 no-mint mark penny into a much more valuable category. The first factor is condition. In the coin collecting world, condition is everything. A coin in good, or very good, condition might look heavily worn, with some details smoothed over from decades of handling. Those coins are common. But a coin in mint state, condition, meaning it has never circulated and retains its original luster, can be a completely different story. These are graded on a numerical scale from 1 to 70 by professional grading services, and a 1941 penny in MS65 or higher is where collectors really start paying attention. Then, there are errors. Minting errors can occur when a coin is struck improperly, and these mistakes are like catnip for collectors. In the case of the 1941 penny, some error varieties include doubled dies, where parts of the design, like the date or the lettering, appear doubled due to a misalignment in the die, and off-center strikes, where the design is shifted to one side. There are also coins struck on the wrong planchet, meaning they were accidentally minted on a blank meant for another denomination. Another fascinating aspect is the wartime context. Although 1941 pennies were still made from the standard bronze alloy of 95% copper and 5% tin and zinc, just 2 years later, the U.S. Mint would temporarily switch to steel planchets coated in zinc in 1943 to conserve copper for ammunition and equipment. This means the 1941 penny is one of the last pre-war copper issues, which gives it a special place in numismatic history. The charm of the 1941 no-mint mark penny also lies in its accessibility. It's one of those coins that almost every collector has encountered, yet finding one in pristine condition is still a challenge. Many were spent into oblivion during the 1940s and 50s, passing through thousands of hands. A coin that managed to survive those decades without being scuffed, bent, or worn down is a rare survivor indeed. Collectors also look closely at the coin's color. Copper coins can tone over time, turning shades of red, red-brown, or brown. A full, red designation, meaning the coin retains at least 95% of its original reddish-orange copper color, is highly prized and can drastically increase its value. This is especially true for a coin over 80 years old. Now, how do you tell if your 1941 penny is one of the valuable ones? First, check for the absence of a mint mark below the date. That's your confirmation it's from Philadelphia. Next, examine the condition. If the details on Lincoln's hair, jawline, and coat are sharp, and the wheat stalks on the reverse are well defined, you may have a higher grade coin. Using a magnifying glass, check for any doubling in the date or lettering, which could indicate a double die. And if the design seems off-center, you may have an error. Strike. If you think your coin might be worth more than face value, the next step is to have it graded by a professional service such as PCGS or NGC. These companies authenticate coins, assign them a grade, and seal them in protective holders. A coin with a top-tier grade or a rare error designation will often sell for much more than an ungraded example. It's also worth noting that the market for coins can fluctuate. A rare coin might command a high price during one period and slightly less during another, depending on demand from collectors. That's why it's important to keep an eye on recent auction results and sales records for coins similar to yours. Over the years, certain exceptional 1941 no-mint mark pennies have made headlines in the numismatic community. These coins weren't just in good condition, they were immaculate, with blazing red luster, sharp details, and eye appeal that set them apart from the millions of other examples. At auctions, such coins have sold for prices that would shock someone who only ever thought of a penny as spare change. Part of what makes coins like this so captivating is the sense of discovery. You could find one in a jar of old change inherited from a grandparent, in a flea market box labeled miscellaneous coins, or even in pocket change if you're incredibly lucky. And unlike many collectibles that are locked away in museums, coins are still out there in the wild, waiting to be found. The 1941 no-mint mark Lincoln wheat penny isn't just a tiny disc of metal, it's a time capsule. It connects you to an era when a gallon of gas cost less than 20 cents, when movie theaters showed newsreels before the feature film, and when young men were enlisting to serve overseas. Each coin carries the marks of its journey, the scratches from a grocery store counter, the slight discoloration from years in someone's dresser drawer, the patina that forms only with age. For new collectors, it's a perfect starting point, affordable in lower grades, yet with the potential for exciting finds if you know what to look for. For seasoned collectors, it's a reminder that even the most common coins can hold secrets, and that rarity is sometimes hiding in plain sight. So the next time you're sifting through your change, don't overlook that old, dull penny. Flip it over, check the date, and look for the absence of a mint mark. Give it a closer inspection. You never know when you might be holding a coin that tells a story spanning generations. And for those exceptional examples, the ones with uncirculated luster, flawless surfaces, and that perfect red glow, the value can be far beyond what you'd expect for a penny. Some have sold in the market for as much as $22,397. The year was 1944, a time when the world was still in the grip of the Second World War. Soldiers fought overseas, industries worked around the clock to produce weapons and supplies, and the American home front was filled with ration books, war bonds, and patriotic determination. In the midst of all this chaos, a small, seemingly insignificant coin was being struck by the U.S. Mint, a copper 1-cent piece featuring the face of President Abraham Lincoln. To the average citizen, it was nothing more than a penny. But to collectors and historians today, the 1944 no-mint mark Lincoln wheat penny has become an extraordinary treasure, holding not only monetary value but also a piece of America's wartime history. If you've ever emptied your pockets at the end of the day and tossed your spare change into a jar, it's possible, though incredibly rare, that one of these little pieces of history could be hiding among your coins. To understand why it's so sought after, we have to take a journey back in time and explore the events and details that make this penny stand out. The Lincoln wheat penny design itself had already been in circulation for decades by 1944. First introduced in 1909 to commemorate the 100th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth, it quickly became one of America's most beloved coins. The obverse, or front, features Victor David Brenner's famous portrait of Lincoln, a thoughtful, almost solemn expression that seems to remind the holder of the values of honesty, unity, and perseverance. The reverse showcases 2 wheat stalks flanking the words 1 cent, giving the coin its popular nickname, the wheat penny. By the 1940s, the wheat penny was a familiar sight in everyone's pocket. But in 1943, something unusual happened. Copper was desperately needed for the war effort, for ammunition, shell casings, and electrical wiring, so the U.S. Mint decided to make pennies out of steel coated in zinc. This gave them a silvery appearance and made them lightweight compared to their copper predecessors. The decision made sense at the time, but the steel's sense quickly became unpopular with the public. They rusted easily, and their resemblance to dimes sometimes caused confusion. So in 1944, the Mint returned to producing copper pennies. But here's where things get interesting. Not all copper used that year came from fresh metal. Much of it was recycled from unused shell casings left over from the war effort. That means when you hold a 1944 wheat penny, you could literally be holding metal that was once intended for a battlefield. This unique origin alone makes the coin special, but there's more to the story. The no mint mark part of the name means that the coin was produced at the Philadelphia Mint. Unlike other mints, such as Denver, marked with a D, or San Francisco, marked with an S, the Philadelphia Mint did not place any letter beneath the date in this era. This can lead to some confusion, as people often think their coin is missing a marking by mistake. But in fact, no mint mark is exactly how the Philadelphia pennies of the time were supposed to appear. Now, you might be wondering, if millions of these were made in 1944, what makes some of them so valuable today? The answer lies in condition, rarity of surviving examples, and historical significance. Over the decades, most pennies went through countless hands, getting scratched, worn down, and sometimes even damaged beyond recognition. Only a tiny fraction of 1944 no-mint mark Lincoln wheat pennies survive in pristine, uncirculated condition, with the sharp details, bright luster, and perfect surfaces they had the day they left the mint. Professional coin grading services like PCGS, Professional Coin Grading Service, and NGC, Numismatic Guarantee Company, evaluate these coins with microscopic precision. They assign grades on a scale from 1 to 70, with higher numbers meaning better preservation. A 1944 penny in average circulated condition might only fetch a few cents or a couple of dollars from a collector, but a flawless, high-grade example is where the value skyrockets. To the untrained eye, a shiny penny might just look nice, but to a collector, certain characteristics set the extraordinary ones apart. Strong, crisp details in Lincoln's hair, beard, and coat. Sharp, raised lettering in the words, "In God We Trust, Liberty," and the date, 1944. No scratches or spots interrupting the surface. A natural, even red tone to the copper, which hasn't dulled into brown with age. These are the kinds of features that can transform a coin from pocket change into a coveted showpiece. Adding to the intrigue, there are error varieties from this year that make some coins even more valuable. For example, rare transitional errors occurred when a leftover steel blank from 1943 accidentally got struck with the 1944 dies, producing a silvery penny in a year when all cents were supposed to be copper. Other coins show doubled lettering, off-center strikes, or other fascinating minting mistakes. While the standard copper 1944 penny is already collectible, these rare errors can sell for many times more. But even without errors, the Philadelphia struck 1944 wheat penny in top condition is a treasure. Part of its appeal is the historical context. Coins are tangible connections to the past, and holding one from 1944 is like shaking hands with history. Imagine the life it might have had. Perhaps it was given as change at a corner soda shop where teenagers danced to big band music on a jukebox. Maybe it bought a newspaper with headlines about D-Day or the Battle of the Bulge. Maybe it sat in a soldier's pocket while he wrote letters home, dreaming of peace. Over time, as people spent their pennies without thinking, many 1944 no-mint mark examples were lost forever, tossed in fountains, buried in dirt, melted down, or simply worn away in circulation. Those that survived in uncirculated condition were often tucked away accidentally, perhaps in a roll forgotten in a desk drawer, or intentionally by an observant collector who knew its potential. The modern coin market has a way of elevating the value of items like this. Collectors compete fiercely for the best examples, and auction houses have seen spirited bidding wars over these humble 1-cent pieces. While some might think it strange for a penny to be worth thousands of dollars, To collectors, it's about owning a rare artifact, preserving history, and completing their collections with the highest quality pieces possible. If you're curious whether you might have one of these valuable coins, the first step is to check the date and look for the absence of a mint mark under 1944. If it's missing, it could be from Philadelphia. But the real determining factor is condition. Even a no mint mark 1944 penny in good condition might only be worth a little over face value, but a pristine, uncirculated one could be worth an astonishing amount. A magnifying glass or even a jeweler's loupe can help you inspect the details. But remember, professional grading is the only way to confirm top-tier value. The truth is, most people who have a 1944 penny in their change jar probably have a worn example worth only a small amount. But that slim possibility that you could discover one in incredible, near-perfect shape is what keeps the hunt alive. Stories circulate in the coin collecting community of lucky finds, someone spotting a gleaming 1944 penny at a flea market, or inheriting a coin collection from a relative and realizing one of the coins is worth a small fortune. It's that blend of history, rarity, and the thrill of the hunt that makes coins like the 1944 no mint mark Lincoln wheat penny so fascinating. And here's something else to consider: the value of rare coins can change over time. Market demand, the number of surviving examples, and the overall economy all play a role. In some cases, coins that sold for high amounts decades ago may sell for even more today, simply because more collectors are competing for fewer available coins. So the next time you handle a penny, take a moment to look closely. You never know if you're holding a common piece of change, or a tiny copper relic that carries the weight of history and the potential to be worth far more than 1 cent. It's this combination of mystery, history, and rarity that makes the world of coin collecting so addictive and so rewarding. The humble Lincoln wheat penny, with its simple wheat ears and the familiar face of Abraham Lincoln, has endured for generations. But the 1944 no mint mark example, struck in a year of both global conflict and national pride, holds a special place in that legacy. For some lucky owners, this little piece of copper has brought not just historical satisfaction but also a staggering financial surprise. Because one of these coins, in absolutely flawless, top-graded condition, has sold for an incredible $43,498. In the world of coin collecting, few things spark as much excitement as discovering that an everyday coin in your pocket change could be worth a small fortune. Among the most fascinating and historically rich coins ever struck in the United States is the 1954 Lincoln wheat penny. At first glance, it's just a simple 1-cent coin, a tiny piece of copper with Abraham Lincoln's portrait. But if you take a closer look, you might find that certain versions of this penny can be worth far more than a single cent. In fact, under the right conditions, it can become a treasure worth tens of thousands of dollars. Today, we're diving deep into the story, history, and value of the 1954 Lincoln wheat penny, from its creation in Denver, to what makes certain pieces incredibly rare, and why collectors are willing to pay huge sums for the right example. So grab your magnifying glass, because we're about to explore everything you need to know about this hidden piece of numismatic history. Let's start by setting the stage. The year is 1954. Dwight D. Eisenhower is President of the United States. The Korean War has just ended, the economy is growing, and the American spirit is high. Coins during this time were still made with a level of craftsmanship and metal quality that we simply don't see today. Pennies were composed of 95% copper and 5% tin and zinc, giving them that beautiful reddish-brown tone when freshly minted. The D mint mark on the 1954 penny tells us it was produced at the Denver Mint in Colorado. That year, Denver struck a staggering 251 million of these coins. That's a massive mintage, which might lead you to think they'd be common and worthless today. And for most examples, that's true. A worn, circulated 1954 penny might only be worth a few cents to $1 or $2. But here's where the magic of coin collecting comes in. Condition, rarity of errors, and historical appeal can transform a seemingly ordinary coin into a collector's dream. First, let's talk about condition. In coin collecting, condition is everything. Coins are graded on a scale from 1 to 70, with 70 being a perfect coin with no marks visible under magnification. Most 1954D pennies that have been used in circulation for decades will have scratches, dull coloring, and worn-down details. These are worth little more than their copper value. But if you find one that was preserved perfectly, maybe it was tucked away in a collection, or stored in a bank roll since 1954, then you're looking at a whole different story. Collectors especially seek out coins in mint state red condition, meaning the coin still has its original bright copper red color with no discoloration or brown tones. Over time, copper reacts with oxygen and moisture in the air, turning brown. So finding a 70-year-old penny that still has that glowing red luster is rare, and rarity drives value. Now, another major factor that boosts the value of a 1954D penny is errors and varieties. In the minting process, mistakes sometimes happen, dies misalign, planchets are imperfect, or the striking process goes wrong. While most errors are caught, some slip through and enter circulation. These error coins are like gold to collectors. One of the most desirable errors for 1954D pennies is the D/D repunched mint mark. This happens when the D mint mark was punched into the die twice, but slightly off from the first strike, leaving a doubled image. Under a magnifying glass, you can clearly see the overlapping mint marks. Such errors are scarce, and collectors love them because they're visually striking and connect to the history of how coins were made. Another error is the off-center strike, where the design is shifted to one side because the coin blank wasn't properly centered during striking. Depending on how far off-center the coin is, this can greatly increase value. There's also the die crack variety, where a crack in the die leaves a raised line on the coin's surface. While these are less dramatic than an off-center strike, certain die cracks that are prominent or form interesting patterns, sometimes even resembling extra details in Lincoln's hair or the wheat stalks, can be collectible. When it comes to value, all of these factors combine: the condition, the rarity, and whether the coin has any notable errors. A 1954D penny in average circulated condition might sell for under $1. But in high grades, especially MS65 red or higher, the value shoots up. That's because so few survive in pristine condition. Imagine this: millions of these coins were minted, but most entered circulation immediately. They were used in vending machines, handed out as change, jangled around in pockets and purses. Over decades, those once crisp details wore down. Today, finding one that still looks as if it just came from the mint is incredibly rare, like finding a pristine baseball card from the 1950s. The Denver Mint's production in the 1950s was known for its quality, but also for occasional quirks. The machinery of the time wasn't as automated or precise as today, so human involvement played a bigger role, which is partly why error coins are so sought after. They're little time capsules of the minting process, frozen in metal. Beyond condition and errors, the 1954D penny carries historical charm. It's part of the Lincoln Wheat Cent series, which ran from 1909 to 1958. These pennies are instantly recognizable by the two wheat stalks on the reverse side, framing the words 1 cent and United States of America. The design was created by Victor David Brenner, whose initials, VDB, can be found just below Lincoln's shoulder on some years. This design was beloved by the public for nearly 50 years, and the 1954D represents one of the later years before the wheat design was replaced by the Lincoln Memorial in 1959. Collectors often view these coins not just as money, but as pieces of history. Think of what a 1954 penny has seen: the tail end of the post-war boom, the birth of rock and roll, the growth of the American highway system. When you hold one, you're holding a small, tangible piece of mid-century America. So how do you know if your 1954D penny is valuable? First, check the mint mark. The D should be located just below the date on the front of the coin. Use a magnifying glass to see if there are signs of a repunched mint mark. Next, look at the color. Is it still a rich red copper, or has it turned brown? Then, check the overall condition. Are Lincoln's hair details sharp? Can you see all the lines in the wheat stalks on the back? If so, your coin may be worth grading. Professional grading companies like PCGS and NGC can authenticate your coin, assign it a grade, and certify its condition. While grading costs money, it can be worth it for coins that might sell for hundreds or even thousands of dollars. Collectors tend to pay more for coins that have been professionally graded and sealed in a protective holder. And here's the exciting part. Some of these 1954 Lincoln wheat pennies in top condition have sold for jaw-dropping amounts at auction. In fact, one particularly stunning example, preserved in near-perfect mint state condition with blazing red luster, fetched an astonishing $37,988. That's right, a single penny, worth less than the price of a gumball in 1954, sold for the price of a brand new car today. This is the magic of coin collecting. It's not just about the face value of the coin, but the story it tells, the rarity it holds, and the passion of the people who collect them. The 1954 Lincoln wheat penny may be small, but in the right circumstances, it's a giant in the world of numismatics. So, next time you come across an old penny, don't just toss it into a jar, take a closer look. You never know when you might be holding a tiny copper treasure worth a fortune. In the world of coin collecting, few names evoke as much curiosity, mystery, and fascination as the Lincoln wheat penny. Born in the early 20th century and circulating well into the mid-century, this coin has seen both the struggles and the triumphs of America. And among these historic pieces, the 1955 Denver Mint Mark Lincoln wheat penny stands out as one of the most intriguing coins to ever pass through American hands. At first glance, it might look like an ordinary cent, a small copper coin that millions once used to buy candy, newspapers, and cups of coffee. But dig deeper into its story, and you'll uncover a coin that has earned a spot in the hearts of numismatists and collectors worldwide. Imagine holding in your hand a coin that was minted during the Eisenhower era, when rock and roll was rising, black and white television sets flickered in living rooms, and the United States was riding a post-war wave of optimism. This small copper disc, minted in 1955, was struck at the Denver Mint, hence the small letter D, tucked neatly under the date on the obverse. That tiny letter might seem insignificant, but for collectors, it's a marker of origin and rarity that can completely transform a coin's desirability and value. The Denver Mint, known for its efficient and high-volume coin production, was operating at full steam in the 1950s. Every year, it produced millions upon millions of pennies, nickels, dimes, quarters, and half-dollars. The 1955 penny was no exception, with a total mintage in the hundreds of millions. Yet, despite these high numbers, not all 1955 Lincoln wheat pennies are created equal. Some have been preserved in pristine condition, shielded from the wear and tear of circulation, and those survivors are the ones that set collectors' hearts racing. If you were to stumble upon a 1955 Lincoln wheat penny in your change today, chances are it would be worn, its once sharp design dulled by decades of pockets, cash registers, and coin jars. The wheat stalks on the reverse might be faint, the lettering a little soft, and the portrait of Abraham Lincoln smoothed from time and touch. But when this coin is found in mint state, as crisp and gleaming as the day it left the Denver Mint's presses, that's when the magic happens. The deep reddish luster of the original copper, the razor-sharp lines in Lincoln's hair and the wheat ears, and the flawless surfaces free from scratches or dings make it a treasure worth far more than a single cent collectors often talk about. Eye appeal, a term that captures the instant, visceral attraction a beautiful coin can create. And a gem-quality 1955 Lincoln wheat penny, with its rich color and perfect strike, delivers exactly that. Under magnification, you can appreciate the tiny details, the precise beating around the rim, the subtle texture of Lincoln's coat, and the way the light plays across the fields, those flat areas of the coin's surface that are so hard to keep pristine. Of course, one of the fascinating aspects of coin collecting is how condition and rarity combine to create value. The 1955 penny, in lower circulated grades, might only fetch a small premium over face value. But as the condition climbs, from very fine to extremely fine to mint state, the price can rise dramatically. This is because coins in top condition are exponentially harder to find. Think about it, most pennies are spent, handled, dropped, and tossed into change jars, losing their sharpness and original shine almost immediately. To find a coin from 1955 that looks as though it has never been touched is like finding a time capsule from another era. But condition isn't the only factor at play. Errors, varieties, and oddities can turn a common coin into something extraordinary. While the most famous 1955 penny is the Philadelphia double die variety, which shows dramatic doubling of the date and lettering, even Denver minted pennies can have interesting quirks. Off-center strikes, die cracks, or planchet flaws, where the blank copper disc has imperfections before it's even struck, can make certain 1955 pennies highly desirable to specialists. For a serious collector, provenance can also add intrigue. Was this coin part of a well-known hoard discovered decades later? Did it once belong to a famous numismatist's collection? These stories add layers of history and romance to what might otherwise seem like just a humble cent now. Let's take a moment to consider what this coin represents in the broader tapestry of American history. The Lincoln Wheat penny was first introduced in 1909 to commemorate the 100th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth. It was the first U.S. coin to feature a real historical figure, breaking from the classical portraits of liberty that had graced earlier coins. Designed by Victor David Brenner, the obverse has remained largely unchanged for more than a century, making it one of the most enduring designs in American coinage. The reverse of the 1955 penny features two stylized wheat stalks framing the words, 1 cent, a simple but elegant design that symbolized the agricultural backbone of America. This wheat design was eventually replaced in 1959 by the Lincoln Memorial reverse, but for many collectors, the wheat penny has a charm and nostalgic appeal that the later designs lack. Holding a wheat penny is like holding a piece of mid-century America, a reminder of simpler times when a penny could actually buy something of value. Over the decades, the Lincoln Wheat penny has become a gateway coin for new collectors. It's often the first coin someone pulls from a handful of change and sets aside, curious about its age and design. For others, it's the first step toward building a complete date and mint mark set, an achievement that can take years of searching. And for a lucky few, it's the coin that sparks a lifelong passion for numismatics. Now, while the majority of 1955 pennies are relatively easy to find in circulated condition, the real challenge lies in securing one in flawless mint state with full, original red luster. This is where grading services like PCGS, Professional Coin Grading Service, and NGC, Numismatic Guarantee Company, come in. These organizations certify a coin's authenticity and grade it on a 70-point scale, with MS-70 representing a perfect, flawless coin. An MS-67 or MS-68 1955 Lincoln Wheat penny is a showstopper, the kind of coin that commands attention in an auction room and can ignite fierce bidding wars among collectors. What makes this all the more fascinating is that these coins were never intended to be rare. The Denver Mint produced hundreds of millions in 1955. But time, circulation, and the natural oxidation of copper have whittled down the surviving population of high-grade examples to a small fraction of the original mintage. It's this scarcity, combined with the beauty and history of the coin, that fuels its desirability. So, imagine you're at a coin show or browsing through an online auction, and you come across a 1955 Lincoln Wheat penny that has been graded MS-67 red. The coin glows with a fiery copper brilliance, the strike is bold and sharp, and there's not a single distracting mark on its surface. Other collectors are eyeing it, and you can feel the anticipation in the air. You know this is a special coin, one that could become the centerpiece of your collection or a valuable asset to pass down to future generations. And that brings us to the question everyone wonders about: just how much could such a coin be worth? For an average circulated 1955 penny, the value might be modest. But for those rare, top-graded examples, the ones with impeccable surfaces, blazing color, and undeniable eye appeal, the prices can climb to jaw-dropping levels. And indeed, a particularly stunning, high-grade specimen of the 1955 Lincoln Wheat penny has been known to fetch an astounding $33,488 at auction. In the world of coin collecting, there are few thrills greater than discovering that an ordinary-looking penny in your pocket could actually be worth a fortune. To the average person, a penny is just a copper coin, something we hardly notice anymore. But in the eyes of seasoned numismatists, certain pennies hold stories, mysteries, and values that go far beyond their humble 1 cent face value. One such treasure is the United States of America 1957 no mint mark Lincoln wheat penny. At first glance, it looks like any other wheat penny you might find rattling around in an old coin jar. But beneath that unassuming appearance lies a history tied to the post-war era, the craftsmanship of the U.S. Mint, and the subtle minting details that have turned some examples of this coin into coveted prizes among collectors. This is a story of how a single year, a missing mint mark, and pristine preservation can elevate an everyday coin into a legendary collectible. To understand the significance of the 1957 no mint mark Lincoln wheat penny, we need to step back in time to the mid-20th century. The United States was in the midst of a post-war economic boom. The average American household was experiencing a surge in prosperity. Television was becoming a fixture in living rooms, and cars with bold tail fins were cruising the highways. It was an age of optimism and expansion. But in the background, the U.S. Mint continued its quiet, steady work, producing the nation's coinage, including the Lincoln wheat penny, which had been in circulation since 1909. By 1957, the wheat penny was already a familiar sight in pockets and cash registers. It was part of everyday life, often used for small purchases like a stick of gum or a newspaper. But collectors knew that certain details could make 1 penny stand out from millions. The no mint mark designation is a key example. Coins without a mint mark from this period were struck at the Philadelphia Mint. While this wasn't unusual, it's the combination of the mint location, the year, and exceptional condition that transforms the 1957 no mint mark penny from common to extraordinary. The obverse, or front, of the coin features the iconic portrait of President Abraham Lincoln, designed by Victor David Brenner. His dignified profile had been gracing the penny since the coin's redesign in 1909 to commemorate the 100th anniversary of Lincoln's birth. The detail in his hair, beard, and clothing lines was crisp when the coins were first struck, though decades of circulation have worn many examples smooth. Above Lincoln's head, the familiar motto, "In God We Trust," arcs gracefully. To his left, the word Liberty stands in bold capital letters, and to his right, the date, 1957, appears, without any mint mark underneath, confirming its Philadelphia origin. On the reverse, 2 simple yet powerful wheat stalks curve inward from the edges, framing the denomination, 1 cent, and the phrase, United States of America. The motto, E pluribus unum, rests above, a reminder of the country's unity from many states. This wheat design, often called the wheat ears, reverse, would soon be replaced in 1959 by the Lincoln Memorial design, making the 1957 issue one of the last in the series. For collectors, this end-of-era detail only adds to the coin's allure. Now you might wonder, if millions of these were minted in Philadelphia in 1957, why is this penny considered valuable at all? The answer lies in scarcity of condition and demand from the collecting community. While the 1957 no mint mark penny is not particularly rare in circulated grades, finding one in absolutely flawless, uncirculated condition is another matter entirely. Over time, most coins were subjected to everyday wear, being passed from hand to hand, rattling in cash registers, or jostling in jars and drawers. Even tiny scratches, nicks, or loss of luster can significantly reduce a coin's desirability to high-end collectors. The few surviving examples that remain in pristine, mint state condition are often the result of careful storage. Sometimes, rolls of uncirculated coins were tucked away by bank employees, collectors, or even ordinary individuals who saved them as keepsakes. Decades later, these untouched coins emerge, their surfaces still glowing with the original reddish-gold luster of fresh copper, their details sharp and unblemished. It's these coins, graded by professional grading services as MS-66, MS-67, or higher, that command extraordinary prices at auctions. Another factor that adds to the mystique of the 1957 no mint mark penny is the fascination with mint errors. While most 1957 pennies were struck correctly, some error varieties exist: double die obverse, off-center strikes, or improperly mixed planchets that resulted in unusual coloring. These errors are rare, and when combined with high-grade preservation, they can send a coin's value soaring. Collectors see them as both a piece of history and a fascinating glimpse into the minting process, where even the most meticulous machinery can have an occasional flaw. Let's also consider the historical context. In 1957, the United States was in the midst of the Cold War. The space race was heating up, with the Soviet Union's launch of Sputnik just months earlier. In popular culture, Elvis Presley was topping the charts, and teenagers were flocking to drive-in theaters. Holding a 1957 penny is like holding a tangible piece of that era, a tiny, copper witness to a pivotal time in American history. The sentimental value, combined with historical and numismatic interest, makes this coin a favorite among collectors who value both its story and its physical beauty. One of the most exciting parts of coin collecting is the possibility of discovery. The 1957 no-mint mark penny still occasionally turns up in pocket change, coin rolls, or inherited collections. For most people, it will be worth only a few cents, perhaps a few dollars if in decent condition. But for the lucky finder who stumbles upon a flawless example, that humble penny could be worth hundreds or even thousands of times its face value. Professional grading is essential when it comes to determining the true market value of a 1957 no-mint mark penny. Services like PCGS, Professional Coin Grading Service, and NGC, Numismatic Guarantee Corporation, provide unbiased, expert evaluations, assigning a numerical grade based on factors like strike quality, surface preservation, and luster. Coins that achieve the highest grades become the showpieces of advanced collections, often drawing intense bidding wars when they come up for sale. Auction records reveal just how high those values can climb. While common examples in circulated condition might fetch only modest prices, top-tier specimens, blazing with original color, free from even the tiniest flaw, have reached staggering amounts under the spotlight of major coin auctions. These are the coins that make headlines and inspire collectors to keep searching, hoping to uncover the next great treasure hidden in plain sight. The allure of the 1957 no-mint mark Lincoln wheat penny goes beyond mere numbers. It's a blend of artistry, history, and the thrill of the hunt. It represents the end of the beloved wheat reverse design, the skill of early 20th century engravers, and the enduring fascination with Abraham Lincoln's enduring legacy. It's a reminder that even the smallest objects can carry immense cultural weight, telling stories that span generations. For many collectors, acquiring a high-grade 1957 no-mint mark penny is a way of preserving a tiny slice of mid-century America, a coin that circulated in diners where jukeboxes played rock and roll, in corner stores where candy cost a penny, and in gas stations where a few coins could fill your tank. In today's world, where physical cash is becoming less common, such coins feel like relics from another time, imbued with a kind of quiet magic. And so, the search continues. Coin dealers, auction houses, and collectors all keep an eye out for exceptional examples. Every so often, a breathtaking specimen appears, and the bidding begins, proof that the charm of the wheat penny has not faded, even decades after it disappeared from circulation. The United States of America 1957 no-mint mark Lincoln wheat penny is more than just copper and zinc. It's a time capsule, a piece of art, and for some, a dream come true. The right combination of condition, history, and collector demand can turn this 1-cent piece into a life-changing discovery. And in one extraordinary case, a flawless 1957 no-mint mark Lincoln wheat penny, gleaming with its original mint luster and bearing every intricate detail as though it had just left the press, was sold for an astonishing $49,299.